everybody, welcome back to the tea table. This is Michelle with Tea Time Creations. Today we're going to be making an ocean themed soap. Now, if you're an experienced soap maker, you know it's not a good idea to use tap water for soap making. But I recently saw a post online where somebody had asked the question about whether or not it's okay to use ocean water. Now, even though the soap that we're working on today is an ocean-themed soap, I'm going to explain to you the reason why I highly recommend not using ocean water, at least right now. Now, I realize that wherever you reside, you may not have the problems that we're having here in Florida, but the point I'm trying to get across is I don't know that anybody really knows what's in their water, you know, in their backyard or their neck of the woods. So a very rudimentary explanation of what's happening is Lake Okeechobee sits in the center, roughly, of the state of Florida. The water from Lake O used to flow south into the Everglades. It no longer does that because it's contained by a dam. Sugar crops sit south of Lake Okeechobee, so the sugar crops are sandwiched between the Everglades and Lake O. Now remember, Lake Okeechobee is contained by a dam, so you've essentially got this cesspool sitting in the middle of the state. What makes it toxic is chemicals and fertilizer. The water runoff from the sugar crops is actually being back pumped into Lake Okeechobee. Well, that water has to go somewhere, otherwise it's gonna flood. And so the Army Corps of Engineers releases the water. This is not a new occurrence. It's been happening for years and years. But the problem is the water right now in Lake O is so toxic that it's killing marine life and making people sick. And it's getting into our oceans because it's being released into the St. Lucie River to the east, which goes into the Atlantic Ocean, and the Caloosahatchee River to the west, which falls into the Gulf of Mexico. And this is how our oceans are being basically polluted. And I know that there's going to be an argument for, well, the lye water kills off all the bacteria and the toxins. But until I see scientific evidence that that's true, I'm not a firm believer that that's what's happened. And my belief is if the toxins are enough to kill animals such as dolphins and sharks, I mean, these are very large animals that live in the ocean, and then the toxins have gone from the middle of the state, traveled all the way to, the Gulf of Mexico. That's a lot, and I can tell you that the numbers are exorbitant right now. And for example, every day the Army Corps of Engineers releases about 2 billion gallons of water every single day into the Caloosahatchee. And that's just a cesspool of nasty stuff that I personally don't want to put in my soap and have my family rub on their body or, somehow get into their mouth. And you can tell that I'm already losing my voice and just talking, for this minute about it, because this is what it's doing to the air quality around here. So it's just something for you guys to keep in mind. All right, so thank you everybody for kind of listening to me there. And now we're going to go ahead and get on to our soaping project. So I've already pre-made my whipped soap, and I'm starting to section it off into piping bags, coloring it and putting it into piping bags. I'm not going to give instructions on how to make whipped soap on every video that I do. The videos would just be way too long. There is a basic whipped soap making video up on my channel. If you need help in making whipped soap, please go back and refer to that video. So now I'm mixing blue mica with my whipped soap. Now remember, when you're coloring your whipped soap, because you're working with a pure white or snow white base, you're probably going to need more mica than usual, and the colors will lighten up once the soap dries. But I kind of want a variegated color or a combination of colors, and so I'm mixing my blue soap, and then I'm going to add some more white to it. I kind of want that texture, that mixture of blue and white, so I don't really care if it's mixed up 100% to an absolute solid blue. Our soap batter that we're going to be using as ocean water is starting to come together pretty nicely. I want to add a final spoonful of white just to kind of give it that natural uh, color variation in the soap batter. And now I think that we're ready to put into our bags. This is a silicone piping bag that I'm using. I know that it looks kind of dirty, but I can assure you it's been cleaned. It's just the different micas and coloring in the batter stain the bag. Now that I've filled my piping bags with my soap batter, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to start piping on my soap bars. I'm kind of a little bit of a messy worker. I don't have a lot of room to work, so I keep a wet towel next to me to wipe up any spills, which inevitably I make messes all over the place. Here's my bar of soap that I pre-made, and it's been curing for about a month. It's pretty solid, as you can see. It is not a hot process soap. It is a cold process soap, which I don't normally make. And this just happens to be the way that this batch turned out. And one thing that you'll find with me is maybe I'll plan on making a certain soap, but it doesn't usually turn out to be as expected. And so when I'm done with my completed project, it always ends up being a surprise. So here we go. We're starting to pipe on our soap tops, really using a round tip, not the largest round opening, but the medium size. And I kind of start to make the form of a C on top of my soap. I've got my wet towel handy, and I'm going to clean up some of the mess that I've made on my mat, and so I can have some room to finish the tops of these soaps and put my pre-made seashell embeds. Now I'm going to take a paintbrush and kind of blend in my piped soap. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I made a cold process soap bar. I usually do hot process, and I know the soap frosting adheres very well to hot process, but not quite as well to cold process. So I'm just kind of helping it along. Plus I want the kind of appearance of the waves coming into shore, and so it's piped fairly heavily on one side, but just spread very thinly on the other side. But kind of smushing it into the soap really helps it adhere and stick, and so that it doesn't separate. And now I'm taking my pre-made embeds and just putting them on the top of the frosting. These embeds that I'm working with are very small, and it's very difficult to work with them while wearing gloves. I know you're going to be tempted to want to take your gloves off. You have less of a chance with soap batter spilling on you with whipped soap because it's more solid than a liquid cold process soap. But please don't take your gloves off. I, for one, have small hands, and I have yet to find a glove size that fit me properly. My hands tend to slip off the piping bags. It is very difficult to work with, but do try and keep your gloves on. Now I'm going to pick up my brown frosting, and I have a smaller opened round tip on. I'm going to pipe these crabs. Now, I've never practiced piping crabs before, and this is the first time I'm doing it on camera. So the first few that I've done weren't so good, but they got better as I went along. In fact, I really didn't like the first one that I had done at all, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up with the second one that I did. We're going to start with our waves again from our piping bag. And you can certainly glop it on or use a spatula if that's better for you, or a spoon. I just prefer to pipe. It gives me a little bit more control of the amount of frosting or soap that I want to put on top of my hardened soap bar. And so we're taking up our paintbrush again. It actually may be a makeup brush. I can't remember. It was bought new for the purpose of soap. It's not a recycled makeup brush, but I think technically it might be a makeup brush, a foundation brush. And I've used this one before. And we're going to go ahead and put our embeds on again. I like to do things in uneven numbers. So I'm putting three toppings on, 3 embeds on the top. And then we're going to try and pipe our crab again. Hard to keep these little suckers from slipping off the gloves. You see the amount of glove that's left over on my fingertips? Alright, here we go with the crab. So again, we're going to pipe like an oval shape or a bean shape, a circle, and then fill it in. I've got a metal barbecue skewer here. It's actually a shish kebab, a stainless steel shish kebab skewer that I am using to kind of help shape the direction of my crab, because it's hard to get very, very small details with soap, even when using a small tip. And then we're going to work on the legs again. So we're going to do dots. This is how we're doing the claws for the crabs. We're doing dot, dot, dot. And then the legs, 1 is just even pressure and pulling, 2, 3, and then we're going to go to the other side. 1, 2, 3. And don't worry if you mess up. There's always ways to fix the soap afterwards. And this is the bottom part of the crab, which I ended up leaving off on a lot of them because I just didn't like. And then there's the kind of claws, the crab claws. Here's another one that I had done. Here's a little bit of a close-up. Looks a little bit like a crab. I'm going to go back and paint it on with some mica paint on some accents. But this is like the third one that I had done, and I added some more white soap to the end to kind of make it look a little bit more like the waves coming into the ocean. And I actually had a soap stamp that I put on that one as well. And here I've set up my workspace so that I can pipe the tops on the soap a little bit faster, so it works almost like a little bit of an assembly line. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you would like to leave me a comment, please feel free to post it below. I'd love to see you join my Facebook group. It's a Piping with Cold Process Whip Soap. You'll be able to post photos of your own work there. And of course, as always, don't forget to like this video, share it with your soaping friends, and make sure to subscribe to this channel so that you are the first to know when I post a new video. So again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time at the tea table. Bye for now.